Long before Blackbeard became the most feared pirate in history, he was simply another sailor searching for opportunity in a dangerous world. The early 18th century was the Golden Age of Piracy. The Atlantic Ocean was crowded with merchant ships carrying sugar, tobacco, silver, gold, and other valuable cargo between Europe and the Americas. Every voyage promised enormous profits, and every voyage attracted men willing to steal them. Many pirates were not born criminals. Some had served in the British Royal Navy. Others fought as privateers during wartime, legally attacking enemy ships on behalf of their governments. But when the wars ended, thousands of experienced sailors suddenly found themselves unemployed. Faced with low wages, harsh discipline, and dangerous working conditions aboard merchant vessels, many turned to piracy instead. Among them was a man believed to have been named Edward Teach, although surviving records also spell his surname as Thatch or the Che. Very little is known about his early life, and that mystery has only added to his legend. Historians believe Teach gained valuable naval experience before joining the crew of the pirate Benjamin Hornigold, one of the most successful captains operating from Nassau in the Bahamas. Under Hornigold's command, Teach learned far more than how to seize ships. He learned that fear could be more powerful than violence. Soon, Hornigold trusted him with his own command. It was then that Edward Teach began transforming himself into the man history would remember as Blackbeard. His appearance became part of his strategy. Before battle, he tied slow-burning fuses beneath his hat so that thick smoke surrounded his face. His long black beard was braided with ribbons, while several pistols hung across his chest alongside cutlasses and knives. To terrified sailors, he looked less like a man, and more like something sent from hell. Modern historians believe Blackbeard carefully created this terrifying image for one reason. He wanted enemy crews to surrender before the first shot was fired. It worked. Merchant captains who believed they faced an unstoppable monster were often far less willing to resist. Every battle avoided meant fewer casualties, less damage to valuable ships, and more profit for the pirates. Blackbeard understood that reputation could become a weapon. The more frightening the stories became, the easier his next victory would be. Within only a few years, his name spread across the Caribbean and the Atlantic. Sailors whispered warnings in crowded ports. Merchants delayed voyages. Colonial governors grew increasingly alarmed. A pirate unlike any they had seen before was rising. And soon, Blackbeard would capture the ship that transformed him from a feared pirate into a living legend. Blackbeard's rise truly began in 1717, when he captured a French slave ship known as La Concorde. It was no ordinary prize. The vessel was large, heavily armed, and capable of carrying dozens of cannons. After taking control, Blackbeard renamed her Queen Anne's Revenge, transforming the ship into one of the most formidable pirate vessels ever to sail the Atlantic. With nearly 40 cannons and a crew that may have exceeded 300 men, the Queen Anne's Revenge was designed to overwhelm merchant ships before a battle even began. But Blackbeard understood something that many pirates did not. A damaged ship was worth less than an undamaged one. A dead crew could not reveal where other valuable cargo might be sailing. Violence was useful, but fear was even more profitable. As the Queen Anne's Revenge approached its targets, Blackbeard made sure every sailor aboard the enemy vessel could see him. Smoke poured from the burning fuses beneath his hat. His beard framed an expression that witnesses described as terrifying, while pistols and swords covered his body. Many captains chose surrender within minutes, not because Blackbeard had fired the first cannon, but because they believed resistance was hopeless. Unlike the popular image created by later novels and films, historians believe Blackbeard was often more interested in intimidation than unnecessary killing. A reputation for slaughter might encourage desperate resistance. A reputation for accepting surrender, however, convinced many crews to hand over their ships without a fight. His greatest victory came in May 1718. Instead of attacking a single vessel, Blackbeard blockaded the busy port of Charleston, South Carolina, one of Britain's most important colonial harbors. For nearly a week, ships entering or leaving the port were captured one after another. Passengers, merchants, and even prominent local citizens were taken hostage. The colony was thrown into panic. Yet Blackbeard made an unexpected demand. He did not ask for gold. He did not demand weapons. Instead, he requested a chest of medicine. Only after receiving the supplies did he release his prisoners and sail away. The incident embarrassed British authorities. One pirate had brought a major colonial port to a standstill without firing a single shot at the town itself. Governors throughout the American colonies realized that Blackbeard was no longer just another outlaw. He had become a serious threat to trade, public confidence, and British authority. Every successful raid made his legend grow. Every surrender strengthened his reputation. Soon, merchants began fearing the sight of his flag more than the sound of his cannons. Blackbeard had discovered the secret that made him different from almost every pirate of his age. The greatest weapon on his ship was not the Queen Anne's revenge. It was the fear that arrived before she did. By 1718, Blackbeard had become the most infamous pirate in the Atlantic. His name spread from the Caribbean to the American colonies, and stories about him grew with every passing month. Some claimed he could not be killed. Others believed he had made a pact with the devil. Whether sailors believed those tales or not hardly mattered. Fear was doing exactly what Blackbeard wanted. Then, something unexpected happened. The British Crown offered pirates a chance to surrender. Known as the King's Pardon, it promised forgiveness to those willing to abandon piracy and return to lawful lives. Many accepted the offer, realizing that the age of piracy was becoming increasingly dangerous. Blackbeard appeared to do the same. He sailed to North Carolina, where Governor Charles Eden granted him a royal pardon. For a brief moment, it seemed that the most feared pirate on the seas had retired. But peace did not suit him. Within months, Blackbeard was once again attacking ships along the American coast. Historians still debate whether he ever truly intended to leave piracy behind or simply used the pardon to buy time and avoid capture. Either way, colonial officials quickly realized the threat had returned. One man, however, had grown tired of waiting. The governor of Virginia, Alexander Spotswood, believed Blackbeard had become too dangerous to ignore. Although North Carolina had officially pardoned the pirate, Spotswood decided to act anyway. He secretly organized a mission to hunt him down. To lead it, he selected a young Royal Navy officer named Lieutenant Robert Maynard. Unlike Blackbeard, Maynard commanded 2 small ships with no heavy cannons. On paper, his force looked hopelessly outmatched. But he had one advantage: surprise. In November 1718, Maynard learned that Blackbeard was anchored near Ocracoke Island, off the coast of North Carolina. The pirate had only a small part of his crew with him. Confident that few would dare challenge him, Blackbeard had lowered his guard. Before sunrise, Maynard's ships quietly entered the narrow channel. Blackbeard spotted them almost immediately. According to eyewitness accounts, he greeted the approaching vessels with cannon fire, damaging one of the British boats and killing several sailors. The battle had begun. Maynard knew he could not win a long-range fight. Instead, he devised a risky plan. He ordered most of his surviving crew to hide below deck, making his ships appear nearly defeated. From Blackbeard's perspective, victory seemed certain. Believing the British were on the verge of surrender, he ordered his men to board. It was exactly what Maynard had hoped for. As the pirates leaped onto the deck, hidden British sailors suddenly emerged with pistols and cutlasses in hand. The battle instantly turned into brutal hand-to-hand combat. Smoke filled the air. Shots echoed across the deck. Swords clashed at arm's length. For the first time in years, Blackbeard had met an enemy who refused to be intimidated. And before the sun had fully risen, the most feared pirate in history would face the fight that would decide his legend. As Blackbeard's men boarded Lieutenant Robert Maynard's ship, they expected an easy victory. Instead, they walked into a trap. The British sailors hidden below deck suddenly rushed onto the battlefield with pistols, cutlasses, and muskets. Within seconds, the deck erupted into chaos. Smoke blinded both sides. Gunshots echoed across the water. Swords clashed at arm's length. It was no longer a battle between ships. It was a fight for survival. At the center of the chaos stood Blackbeard himself. According to eyewitness accounts, he fought with remarkable determination. Even as the battle turned against him, he continued pushing toward Maynard, determined to kill the British officer and end the fight. The two men eventually faced each other. Their swords collided as sailors fought all around them. At one point, Blackbeard reportedly broke Maynard's sword with a powerful strike. Before the pirate could finish the attack, one of Maynard's sailors stepped in, striking Blackbeard from behind and giving the lieutenant a chance to recover. The fighting continued. Blackbeard refused to surrender. Witnesses later claimed that by the time he finally collapsed, he had suffered 5 gunshot wounds and more than 20 sword cuts. While the exact number cannot be confirmed with certainty, contemporary reports agree on one point. He was extraordinarily difficult to kill. When Blackbeard finally fell to the deck, the battle ended almost immediately. The pirate who had terrified the Atlantic for years was dead. To prove the victory, Maynard ordered Blackbeard's head to be severed and hung from the bow of his ship during the return voyage. It was a grim warning to every pirate still sailing the Atlantic. The message was unmistakable. No one was beyond the reach of the British crown. Like many famous historical figures, Blackbeard's death quickly became surrounded by legend. One of the most enduring stories claims that after his head was removed, his body swam around Maynard's ship several times before sinking beneath the waves. It is a chilling tale, but historians consider it folklore rather than fact. Stories like this helped transform Blackbeard from a feared pirate into an almost supernatural figure. His enemies had defeated the man, but they could not stop the legend from growing. Ironically, the British achieved exactly what Blackbeard himself had always understood. Reputation survives longer than fear. His death marked more than the end of one pirate. It signaled the beginning of the end for the Golden Age of Piracy. With governments increasing naval patrols and aggressively hunting pirate captains, the Caribbean became far more dangerous for outlaws who had once ruled its waters. Yet none of them would ever cast a shadow quite like Blackbeard. More than 3 centuries later, his final battle is still remembered, not because he escaped, but because he fought until the very end. Blackbeard was dead, but his legend was only beginning. News of his death spread rapidly throughout the American colonies and across Europe. Merchants celebrated, governors praised the Royal Navy, and sailors hoped the seas would finally become safer. Yet something unexpected happened. The more people talked about Blackbeard, the larger his legend became. Stories described him as a giant of a man who feared nothing. Others claimed he buried enormous treasures on hidden islands, waiting for no one but himself to find them again. Despite centuries of searching, no confirmed treasure belonging to Blackbeard has ever been discovered. It is one of history's greatest pirate myths. Modern historians also question another popular belief, that Blackbeard was the bloodthirstiest pirate who ever lived. The surviving evidence suggests something different. His greatest weapon was never cruelty. It was reputation. By looking terrifying and allowing frightening stories to spread, he often convinced ships to surrender without prolonged fighting. For Blackbeard, a battle avoided was usually more profitable than a battle won through heavy bloodshed. That strategy made him different from many other pirates of his time. He understood that fear could travel faster than any ship. Even today, historians continue to separate the real Edward Teach from the fictional Blackbeard created by novels, films, and folklore. The truth lies somewhere between the two. He was certainly a pirate. He was certainly dangerous. But he was also a remarkably intelligent leader who turned psychology into one of the most effective weapons on the sea. His influence can still be seen today. Blackbeard has appeared in countless books, documentaries, television series, and films. His image, with a long black beard, burning fuses, and pistols across his chest, has become the symbol of piracy itself. When most people imagine a pirate captain, they are often imagining Blackbeard. So, why was Blackbeard feared more than any pirate? Not because he captured the most ships, not because he possessed the greatest treasure, and not because he killed more people than everyone else. He was feared because he understood a timeless truth. People rarely fear what they know. They fear what they imagine. Blackbeard carefully built that imagination until his enemies believed they were facing something more than a man. By the time they saw his ship on the horizon, the battle had often already been decided. More than 300 years after his death, Blackbeard remains the most recognizable pirate in history, not because of the gold he stole, but because he mastered something far more powerful, the art of fear.